Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us on today's ACA Connects Vendor Solutions webinar. I'm Tamika Slappy, ACA Connects Manager of Member Services. Today's webinar will be recorded and made available within 24 hours in the Member Lounge section of our website. If you have a question during today's discussion, we encourage you to please submit your questions at any time using the Q&A feature, and the team will get to your questions either in real time or at the end of today's discussion. Now, allow me to turn it over to today's moderator, John Higginbotham, ACA Connects EVP and COO. John, over to you.
Thank you, Tamika, and good afternoon to everybody. Thanks for joining us today on this cloudy Wednesday here in Central Kentucky. Gonna have something I think kind of special here today. We've got a couple of our associate members at ACA Connects kind of together are going to talk about how they have looked at an issue of an operator member and how their products and services and their know-how have helped to really solve some things. And so thanks to GOCare and Calix for getting on with us today. We're going to again talk about digital customer experience strategies to drive subscriber loyalty, increase revenue, and reduce OpEx. Let me introduce our speakers today, but before I do that, as a reminder to what Tamika said at the onset here, please don't hesitate to ask your questions along the way, and we will get to them and kind of work them in as we go, but we also have time set aside at the end to talk with you about what questions you might have. So again, our speakers today from GOCare, Mike Roddy is the CEO and co-founder. From Calix, Chelsi Runyan, Senior Manager, Business Insight Success. And from LiveOak Fiber, it's a member operator, Schilling, he's the CEO. So thanks for everybody jumping on with us here today. You know, where I'd like to start a little bit is just talk a little bit about your individual companies. And so, Mike, if you wouldn't mind to go first, and then we'll move over to Calix and then finish up with Shane.
Sure. Thank you, John, for that great introduction. I appreciate it. Yeah, as John shared, I'm Mike Roddy, a co-founder of GOCare. I've spent most of my career in the operator side of things with TDS, Everest, Knology, RCN, a variety of roles and responsibilities. And GOCare really is the first foray into the vendor side of things. And I did that because myself and Rick Perkins, co-founder here, we saw a lot of commonality in the themes around customer experience, and we figured there were ways that we could solve some of those recurring challenges that we both experienced in our career, as well as our colleagues and friends in the industry. So we pitch ourselves as sort of for operators by operators. And now if you look at what's going on in the industry, there's this issue of increased competition. It's everywhere. It's, you know, because of government funding and a tremendous amount of private equity that's building these brand new networks. And so ultimately you've got to find a way to differentiate your service offering. And it's very difficult, if not impossible, to compete on price or technology or speed, things that the customer either doesn't understand or doesn't place a value on. And so that differentiation we're pitching is around CX, customer experience, and how do you become easy to do business with so that you're the preferred provider. The technology behind what we do really is a means to an end. It's not the end. What you as an operator really are valuing is, what are the results? How do I deliver that better experience to my customers so that they're happier, my employees are happier, and ultimately I extend that life cycle of those average customers. So, you know, what you'll hear today, I hope, is that sort of removal of friction in our day-to-day operations, implementing different automations in the exchange with customers, and then again, improving the experience for the employee, for the subscriber, and for the operator themselves. So.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it. Chelsi, talk to us a little bit about what Calix does for its clients?
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for having me on today, John. My name is Chelsi Runyan. I'm a member of the Business Insights team at Calix. And Calix as a whole has a number of products and cloud solution platform services that help enable service providers to do exactly what Mike was just speaking to, and that is provide exceptional subscriber experiences. And my team is Business Insights. We are part of the customer success organization within Calix. And our mission is to help service providers take the wealth of data that is available at their fingertips and leverage it to gain a better understanding of what's happening in their market, within their network, in their subscriber experiences, so that they can make better strategic decisions.
Thank you, Chelsi. Shane, it's your turn, and what we've heard so far is a common thread about trying to differentiate on customer service. So I'm kind of curious, LiveOak Fiber, you guys are doing the exact same thing in the new markets you're going into. Can you tell us a little bit more about LiveOak?
Yes, absolutely. First, I'll give just a 10-second snapshot on my background. I've been in the ISP, MSO space since the late 90s, part of a number of operations from greenfield like LiveOak to more mature operations with 350,000 or so subscribers. So seen quite a bit of the playing field. LiveOak, kind of, I think, as a lot of folks, is going to sound familiar. We're a greenfield fiber to the home company. We were founded in mid 2022 with the mission to try and service underserved communities. Really started, our focus is on the southeast region of the United States. And our areas right now are really focused on the Emerald Coast of Florida. So kind of think of the panhandle regions of Florida, as well as the Emerald Isles of Georgia. So think Brunswick, Georgia, and St. Simons and Savannah and those areas. Like I said, founded in 2022 with the mission for underserved communities. We started construction in late 2022 and began adding customers to the network in early 2023 and began scaling and constructing from there. We're less than 2 years from adding customers. We've scaled quite rapidly, and we're now adding customers at about 10 to 20% of our customer base is increasing month over month. So we're scaling very rapidly. We intend that to continue throughout 2022. Which is kind of what led us to some of the drivers to both the Calix Business Insights as well as utilizing GOCare's tools.
Well, I appreciate that. Let's jump into that part of it. So you guys have identified some challenges that your organization has faced as you kind of ramp up really quickly to some of these areas that are underserved. Can you talk a little bit about some of the issues that you brought to Mike and his group over at GOCare and how you guys working with Mike? And Mike, jump in here too. Talk a little bit of how you attack these issues.
Yeah, I'm happy to lead off. I mean, I think my issues were pretty understandable. Scaling rapidly business, going from zero to a company that didn't exist to a company that was scaling rapidly, adding customers. We knew we needed to continue to evolve all our tools for customer service. They needed to be integrated with our platforms that we had picked and we're beginning to mature. And so that's what led us really to GOCare was an integrated platform to help us manage customer service, interactions, et cetera. And, I would say, even though we're small, I think the customer segment and everyone has been trained now, right? Traditional MSOs and all of that, from my days back, it was a traditional pick up the phone, call environment, right? That's how everyone did it. Times have changed. People expect other communication channels for their interactions with your company, right? If the guy you order food from the food truck from or the restaurant you go to can text you and tell you that your table's ready, well, they certainly expect their ISP to have the sophistication to let them know when their appointments are or when the bills come out and things like that. And so we knew we needed some of those tools as we were beginning to get into the thousands and tens of thousands of customers, which is what led us to GOCare.
Mike?
Yeah, so Shane talked about this integrated solution, and one of the value adds is that we're not looking to replace core systems that an ISP has, right? It's somebody else doesn't have to lose in order for GoCare to win. There's been tremendous investment that's made in all of these, a billing, a network management, customer care, scheduling, or workforce management, a variety of systems. And so what we do is we go in and we integrate into all of those different solutions and in effect deliver a higher ROI on the investments that have been made. So what's on the screen now, our GoCare Messenger is the original tool. It is a modular platform. You don't have to buy everything. So GoCare Messenger is in effect the brains. It's where we do all of the integrations to these different systems and allow them all to talk to each other. And then GOCare Connect, the next one is sort of the omni-channel and ultimately the digital experience platform that Shane was alluding to, where customers, they just don't want to call today, right? The IVR experience that we all have been through is a point of friction for customers. So calling in, press one, wait on hold, et cetera. There's a significant percentage of contacts on a monthly basis that are really routine. What's my balance? When's my payment due? Did you get my payment? Where's my tech? Is there an outage? And we build automations around all of those things and sort of take care of the customer in this digital world. Now, the other piece of the Connect platform, the digital channels, are like email, web chat, social media, and almost every ISP has all of those tools. What they don't necessarily have is all of those tools working seamlessly with each other. So if I came in over 3 different channels on 3 different outreaches, all of that data ends up in a single repository. The agent isn't swivel chairing to different systems looking for what the last contact was and why. And so we build, in effect, a unified customer journey within the GoCare platform for Shane's team or for all of our partner teams to utilize. And so the customer has that better experience I alluded to. The agent has a better experience. She doesn't see the call queue building behind them. And then ultimately the handling time goes down pretty dramatically. And so the operator has a better experience as well.
So can you talk, Shane, can you talk a little bit about how you guys first jumped into this? Is this something that you guys did from really the beginning of the launch, or is this something more recent?
So we've implemented GoCare, kind of May, June timeframe. I want to say that we started with their Messenger and Connect platforms. Our main goals was a couple: to enable kind of those non-voice channel communications, right? Primarily SMS and web chat, and those type of things, as well as to take, I suspect a lot of people struggle with this, especially when they're beginning, right? We had other communication channels like emails, which were simple inboxes, things like that, that we needed to really put some sanity to, as we knew we were going to scale and it just wasn't going to be manageable. So those were the main missions that we wanted to tackle, at least in the beginning. And there's certainly some other areas that we're interested in tackling next that GoCare could potentially help us with, whether that's NPS, transactional NPS, things like that. But our initial rollout was purely SMS communications, as well as kind of the management of ticketing and inboxes and emails, and bringing all that into a single pane of glass, all integrated with our billing platform, et cetera, et cetera. And I know we'll get to it in a little bit, but we've saw some really great results from that integration. And I will say that the GoCare team, their delivery team was very professional, probably one of the better ones I've ever worked with in my career as far as from an implementation standpoint. So won't say there were no hiccups through the implementation, but it was very buttoned up and hit most of our deadlines, et cetera. So we were pretty pleased with that because we rolled it out. We rolled it out pretty quickly.
No,
So.
I understand. And you're right. We have outcomes a little bit later that we're going to spend some time on. I think this is where I want to bring Chelsi in, as Calix has an understanding of what GOCare is doing right now with the folks at LiveOak. Tell us how you guys jumped in on this project and the tools that you guys were able to bring to it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mentioned earlier that we're helping BSPs take the wealth of data they have available and bringing it together, breaking down the data silos that exist. And when you have data that exists in an operational platform like GOCare, maybe cloud platforms like Calix has, maybe in your BSS OSS system, there's so much data there, but it's bringing it together and turning it into a report that you can understand and make decisions off of is the gap that our team fills. We engaged with LiveOak early last year to conduct what we call our subscriber loyalty analysis. And this is a project where we help the BSP to launch out a Net Promoter Score, a voice of the customer style survey. They can use a platform like GOCare to send that survey to communicate with their subscribers, gather feedback, not just understanding what that Net Promoter Score might be, but there are a few other questions to understand why the subscribers are giving the ratings that they gave and what else are they looking for to provide a better experience. And then we're able to take that customer feedback and cross-reference it with the other business data that's available so that we can segment and really go beyond just the baseline score. And we can see what are the characteristics that are driving the very best experiences in the network. Where are the opportunity areas where you have subscribers that maybe their scores are well below the baseline? And that way leadership at the BSP level can really focus their priorities and their resources where it's going to make the biggest impact. We have seen across the industry, Net Promoter Scores are typically very low. Net Promoter Score can range anywhere from -100 up to 100. And the broadband industry typically falls around 15, anywhere between 2 and 30, but the average is at 15. It's right down there with companies like car insurance companies, health insurance companies, car rentals, the types of organizations people historically do not like to interact with. And what we're finding among especially Calix customers and customers that have adopted this commitment to providing a superior experience using platforms like GOCare, their scores are coming in much, much higher. We typically see scores in the 50s to 60s range. LiveOak is an example of a world-class Net Promoter Score, over 75. So we're seeing much, much higher Net Promoter Scores, and we're able to understand why those scores are as good as they are.
Shane, can you talk about maybe not specifically about the score, but what the score really means to not only the staff and the field folks, but how does that help the organization as you move into new communities, new neighborhoods that you guys are pushing out into these greenfields?
Certainly. Let me start with big believer in NPS scoring. I've done it at every company I've been a part of. So big believer, and I think we started at the ground level here at LiveOak to instill that kind of methodology of wanting to listen to our customers, hear from our customers, and talk about that. And I would say specifically for LiveOak One, we had a very high score. We did our NPS early in 2024. We're in the process of doing a new one now that we've added a lot more subscribers. We've got more than double the subscribers we did when we did our first NPS score. So we're excited to do that again here at the end of the year. One, because our score was so high, look, obviously rewarding that what we said we were going to do and focus on the customers we were actually doing, and a way to kind of prove that out was fantastic. But also, for me, NPS is a great way to, when you get those surveys, you have comments and different things that you can really comb through that really help you understand where your business is, how your customers are feeling about you, positive and negative, right? So that you can work on those things. So for us, that's been huge. Even the feedback we got earlier this year, we took very seriously, and we took action on, et cetera, even though a lot of it was largely positive. Anyone with a negative experience, we went and corrected that immediately. And we certainly are looking, at doing more transactional NPS in 2025. So, after every installation and field tech visit, we'll do an NPS score and survey is our intention to do that. Start doing that sometime in 2025, which will give us a lot of great feedback on that part of our operation specifically. So.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Chelsi, I'm going to pause on LiveOak for just a second and say that, in looking at the registrations for this webinar today, we've got some of our ACA Connects members that are in more mature markets that have been there for a while, have been the operator, have been competing in some of these markets. Can you talk a little bit about how your team works with an organization that's maybe been there for a while and been providing service, and what are some of the things that you guys can do and work with them as it kind of contrasts from what LiveOak is doing in a greenfield in a brand new building?
Yeah, for sure. LiveOak was an example of coming in very early in the life cycle, getting a measure of that score, and that way we can identify what was happening, in their installation process, in their new turn-up process, identify any potential issues early so they can be on top of it. We work with other types of customers that may be more traditional telco or telco co-ops. They've been around for decades in their marketplace. But what we are seeing with those customers is they've never looked at data in this way before. They've never looked at potentially what their scores look like geographically broken down across their area, or the comparison of scores between their ILEC market and their CLEC market. We do typically see quite a bit of discrepancy when we look at scores that way. We also break down score by tenure, so we can understand what are the scores and the sentiments and even the topics that your newer customers are talking about versus your longest tenured customers. And that's been a very interesting data trend as well.
So you obviously you'd encourage those folks to reach out to you at Calix and your team to just start the process, start talking, and let's see what we can do with the tools that we have to maybe use these new tools to reach your customers.
Absolutely. Sometimes you learn something new in the data, you find an insight you didn't know before. Sometimes we find something in the data that just validates a hypothesis that you always had, but now you have the data to back it up. So as the leaders across the organization are setting their strategic priorities and deciding where their teams are going to focus their efforts over the next year, you have the data to prove you're focusing in the right place.
So if we talk about the scores for a little bit, what are some ways that you can improve your score, boost your score?
We see very many common trends. One of the most common trends we see is being able to reach out proactively, anticipate what a customer's needs might be, and then being able to proactively reach out to that customer, because we do find there's quite a bit of customers suffering in silence. They expect to have a poor service support experience because, as I mentioned, broadband industry typically does not provide a great experience. And so being able to use your scores, create some predictive profiles of what are the characteristics that might make up a detractor. Even if you only hear from a small portion of your network, you can then project out that to the rest of your network, be predictive about who else might be having a similar experience. And platforms like GOCare that allow you to interact easily with your customers, give them a mechanism to interact with you, to address their needs. We don't want the only interactions you have to be a support issue or, when something goes wrong. So creating mechanisms and ways to have positive interactions with your customers as well.
Thanks. I want to pause for a second and give Mike the same opportunity to talk about the tools that GoCare provides, maybe to one of our operator members that is in a more mature area, or it's been a service provider in a certain place for a while.
Sure. So, I referenced at the beginning, John, that technology is a means to an end. It's not the end. And so SMS is a common, a common tool. SMS can be used as, hey, I'm just going to broadcast out information chain referenced appointment reminders, right? We all have gotten those from different service providers. If all you do is broadcast out text messages, then you're doing what's good for you, not necessarily what's good for the customer. And so we use that mindset when we developed GoCare Messenger, where we wanted SMS to be merely the technology, but aimed at solving a problem. So it is now an alternative channel. The customer can text in a keyword to get, when is their appointment? Was their payment posted? Is there an outage? Just a variety of issues, what the balance is, a variety of routine inquiries that customers make. And that takes the phone call out. The other thing is Chelsi just referenced, things that we sort of know about a customer. What is the profile of customers that are kind of challenged? We have an advanced call routing feature that, again, is designed to sort of minimize the interface that a customer has to go through with the IVR, because we know that IVR is a friction point. So a customer who calls in, you can look at the profile of that customer based on the integrations that we've done to the billing system or the network management, and say, I know this customer is in an outage. I'm going to play them an intercept and sort of avoid, the IVR experience. Or the customer was just disconnected for non-payment. I'm going to offer them the option to make it. This customer has contacted me multiple times in a very short period of time. I can route them to a specific group, whether it's the retention group or my most senior agent. And so, it is really just sort of using the technology to solve what we know is a problem. Chelsi just made the point that customers suffer in silence, and then all of a sudden they're just gone. But if you go back in time, you can see there were red flags that were popping up, and maybe we just weren't paying attention to it. But through the integrations of GoCare and looking at all these different systems together, having that single repository, that customer journey that I referenced, the agent would be able to see, Mike called me, he texted me, he emailed me, and now he's putting in another call. There's got to be something wrong. I want to spend some time with him. So those are the types of tools. But at the end of the day, you want to be easy to do business with. You want to meet the customer on the channel that they want to come in over. And again, we're Gartner clients, and Gartner says the demand for these digital channels is overwhelming. The reason people don't use them is they're not integrated. They're not seamlessly working with each other. And that's what we've done, is make those things easy to come in on and provide that single repository.
Thank you, Mike. As a reminder out to folks, if you have questions, please don't be shy. Go ahead and submit them. I'm going to jump back to Chelsi, if you don't mind. Do you have any kind of final thoughts on data and trends that's important to kind of pass along here today, those folks that are with us?
Yeah, I wanted to share these two visuals here, and these are not LiveOak's data, it's other customers' data, but these are trends that we are seeing almost universally across the board, and we have done this same type of project with dozens of customers at this point. The first one is service tier trend. And so if you look here, this customer had two surveys that were done 2 years apart. So we can see in their 2022 survey, we had quite a bit of differentiation between their lower service tiers and their 1 gig plus tiers, had much higher scores. We repeated this same study again for them this year, just 2 years later. And you can see that that line, and it's the black line, a little bit harder to see here, but it's flatlined quite a bit over the course of the last 2 years. And this is a trend we're seeing across the board where speed is not differentiating the experience of your subscribers. Less and less customers that are on 1 gig plus tiers are coming in with higher net promoter scores than those customers on lower tiers. Because we all know once we get into, especially 250, 300 meg plus, the experience in the home to that subscriber is not going to feel that different. And so this is spurring very interesting conversations around offer strategy. How can you keep your tier packages fresh? How can you keep them differentiated? What do you do for that subscriber who's paying for your highest service tier? Are there different types of service levels you can provide and how they can get in touch with you? Are there additional added value services or managed services? So this trend has come up quite a bit, especially over the last year. The other one is the tenure trend. I mentioned this earlier, and I think is very relevant for operators who have been around a long time. We had a hypothesis going into our very first studies that the customers who had been around the longest would be the happiest customers. They've stuck with you this whole time. They're going to love you the most. And we saw data that pointed to exactly the opposite. Your customers that have come up over the last 2 years typically have much, much higher scores. We've started to call this in our team the 2-year honeymoon period. And then we see those scores decline actually quite rapidly over time. And it's the customers who have been around for even decades that have lower scores. And what we see here is usually an uptick in passive sentiment among these customers. It's not that they're unhappy with their service. It's just that you've become another bill to pay. And their only interactions with you are when something is going wrong and there's a support ticket. And so we have seen customers be able to turn this trend on its head, maintain high scores over time when they can actively engage their subscribers more often.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much. We've got some operator members on today that have been traditional HFC providers. And so in that realm, they're in a 25 to 100 megabit range. And those are the services they've offered over the course of the last 10, 12, 15 years. And again, I don't want to kind of disclose who I'm talking about here, but there are folks on here that have overbuilt themselves with fiber. And so now they're in a situation where they may have several thousand folks who have only known this system as being capable of 50 or 75. And, we've just lived with that back at our house, so to speak. How do you work with members like that now have a different type of capacity because of the new fiber that they put in there, and how you work with a strategy to motivate folks to move over to the faster speeds?
Yeah, it's a really good point. I would say when you get to speeds less than 100 meg, especially less than 50 meg, we do still see differentiation in scores. So those customers typically will have lower scores. One point to make, though, is not every customer needs an upgrade. And so through platforms like Calix Engagement Cloud, you're able to segment out customers who are on those lower tiers who are hitting their service limit hits. And you can find the customers that are in the most need. You can also look at things like what's their usage profile? Are the customers working from home? And in that case, their bandwidth is extremely important. And any issues with their bandwidth could be causing a huge impact on their lives. So being able to segment your customers by their needs, anticipating their needs, is one way that you can convert them over up to the higher tiers if they need it.
Well, thank you very much. So those folks that are on with us today, that you are on your way to being an all fiber plant. There are tools and experience at Calix and GOCare to help you kind of migrate off an old platform onto a new one when it comes to the actual connectivity. So unless you guys want to talk a little bit more about the data here or what's available, I'd kind of like to move on a little bit to kind of the results that both GOCare and Calix have had with Shane and his crew over at LiveOak. If we could talk about that a little bit, is that okay?
Do it.
Sure.
All right.
Happy to do it. If I forgive me, may back up for a second. I will say Chelsi and her team did a great job. I think when you run an NPS, as important as it is, you can do the surveys, the calculations pretty straightforward to get with your number, but getting the insights out of all of that data is really critical. And I think, as you heard, Chelsi, she clearly knows the business and the insights, and that's key. And they did a great job for us when we did that. So we're looking forward to having that again at the end of the year. So in regards to the results of all of this that we've done, rolling out GOCare and products, a big thing for us, as I said, and keep saying over and over, we're scaling and scaling. We've doubled our field tech staff. We've tripled our customer base in 2024 and continue to scale. All of those type of things, which, as you can imagine, is a lot of activity. Rolling out GOCare just for the appointment reminders, that interaction with customers to be able to reschedule their appointments, things like that, took a lot of load off of our teams, as well as a lot less failed appointments or missed appointments the day of, right? And we've seen a nice reduction in that, while at the same time scaling up and going faster. And that's been really great for us. And certainly our dispatch and service delivery teams are very thankful for now having some tools to help with that. And it's been good. Our reduction in outstanding debt has dramatically been impacted positively. Again, we've more than doubled our customers, et cetera, et cetera. What our experience has been with bill reminders, directing people to our billing portal, that integration between our billing platform and GOCare, et cetera, has allowed us to shrink our outstanding debt while at the same time increasing our overall revenue by more than double in doing it. And also, we have certainly seen an impact from the time in which a customer would go delinquent to the time we see a payment, that window has dramatically shrunk for us. And we're very happy about that. And then finally, having the tools to now bring in kind of, an overused term of a single pane of glass that's all integrated to manage kind of what I would call non-voice communications with our customer has now led us to be able to, one, have better SLAs, but also shrink those SLAs, right? In the previous world, we certainly had some SLAs, harder to measure and truly hold people accountable to that and how we're doing it. Now that we have the tools, we can see it, we can make corrections very, very rapidly. And we've seen a really great reduction in not just our average kind of handle time of those type of communications, our pickup time of when we begin an interaction with a customer has improved. The time it takes for us to help a customer has improved dramatically. And also at the same time, we've been scaling up our customer service operation. And these tools have allowed us easier training to bring people on board, that type of thing. And they are certainly happy to have a straightforward tool to use to manage all these different kind of communication channels. So all in all, it's been a very positive result for us with GOCare up to this point.
Thanks, Shane. Mike, would you have anything to add? These are positive outcomes, and I'm just kind of curious what your point of view is from GOCare.
Yeah, a couple of things, and I know Shane said it at the beginning, but just so that it's not lost. These results are really in a period of about 90 days. They have been live on the GOCare, the two modules of the GOCare platform that they're contracted for, really just in the last 3 months. And to achieve these types of results, it's impressive. Now, if you go back to I think it was last year's ACA webinar, John, that we did, that middle stat on the 50% reduction in outstanding debt is almost a mirror image of a quote from a client that we have with TEC who said the exact same thing. In the first month, they had a 50% reduction in their non-pay disconnects. So it isn't about the technology, it's about the results. Are the customers responding to it? Yes. They're happier. And even on the efficiency, that's a perfect example where, Shane and his team are happier because they're seeing these results, but at the same time, the customer is happier. When you come in over a digital channel, you don't go through all the authentication steps that you do in a voice platform. We know who you are because of those integrations, the number or the channel that you came in over, and we can get to, or Shane's team can get to solving those problems much more quickly, and the customer can get back to what they were doing. So, congratulations, Shane. These are awesome results, and I think they're indicative of what other clients see, and the way you differentiate yourself in a competitive environment.
Thank you. And let me add this a little softer, not really numbers around it, but obviously we want to drive as much communication through, again, what I would call non-voice channels. The traditional, I think you said, Mike, IVR route is inefficient, costly, and people hate it, right? So the more we can drive away from that to the tools that I think customers really expect in the modern age is certainly more efficient for us. Customers are happy, et cetera, et cetera. We like it, obviously, as an operator level. So, and we've certainly, you alluded to, it's early days, but we are beginning to see our contact rates go down, a few percentage points every month, right? I think GOCare has a part of that. And we've also seen voice calls kind of start to lower a bit while these channels start to increase, which is certainly a trend we encourage and would like to continue, right?
Yeah. And Chelsi referenced earlier in the call about, proactively communicating with customers, and those are the types of results that you see when you provide the customer information in advance. Your tech is on the way, or your appointment is tomorrow, or your payment was received. Those are calls that customers used to make, they no longer need to make. And it's not necessarily going to happen on day one. It's going to be after a period of time. The customer goes, oh, they're going to tell me this if I just wait around a little bit. So, I would expect you will continue to see those reductions.
Shane, it's occurred to me that where you guys serve today, down in Florida and over closer to Savannah, and again, this is just curveball, so sorry if I'm off base a little bit, but I wonder do you deal more with like part-time people living in these homes because they're more, summertime at the beach kind of thing, or rentals, and do these tools that have been made available to you from GOCare and Calix make the appointments and the payment side easier? Or am I just off base here a little bit in thinking?
I don't think you're off base. We certainly have seasonality in some of our markets, et cetera, et cetera. I'd say less to do with GOCare, but just internet in general. Even if someone's renting their place or has some seasonality to people in and out of their things, they all want internet in the place 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days of the year, because that's how they're monitoring their home when it's empty and things like that. So we certainly haven't seen any seasonality from that perspective. And I would say these tools help folks who are managing maybe paying their bill remotely, et cetera, et cetera. I think it helps them with that, as well as on the appointment side, because sometimes maybe you've got a property owner that owns multiple places, and the appointment, reminds them that they need to be there for your appointment and stuff. So we've certainly seen some improvement to that, kind of more anecdotal than I could really prove out, but we've certainly seen some of that.
Mike, I bet you guys have had a lot of experience in with other operators in dealing with that more seasonality. Is that something that comes up a bit, and you guys have special solutions for that work?
I wouldn't say that we've had that. I'm sorry. We've had that come up at all. I know that we've got, a variety of customers in big and small markets, and the seasonality issue really hasn't been raised as a big one, John.
No, I got you. Before we move on from those results, I want to give Chelsi an opportunity to just kind of give some feedback from Calix's point of view on these results.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll speak quickly to your question on seasonality. That is a segmentation that we do typically look at when we look at our scores, is just find out if customers who have been on a seasonal plan or just reconnected from a seasonal plan, how they compare to others in the network. And we had a customer recently who had lower scores for their seasonal customers, and we drilled into the reasons why. We looked at the topics that the customers talked about when they gave their scores and saw that there were some price value gaps there. So that kind of data would help an operator understand if there are lower scores for seasonal customers or higher scores for seasonal customers, looking and understanding why that is, and then being able to apply that out to the network is a great opportunity. I'll say that the results that LiveOak Fiber has seen from the GOCare solution are outstanding. Really excited to repeat their loyalty analysis here in a month or so and see the impact. It is really hard to improve on a score like 75 because they're doing so well, but would just be amazing to see that score go up even more. And we have seen some improvements even in those world-class service providers. The other point that this was touched on a little bit by both Mike and Shane is this idea of transactional scoring, transactional voice of the customer. So reaching out immediately following a trouble ticket or immediately following a service interaction and getting feedback in real time so that you can address that feedback. That is a great data point. It's a great best practice. It allows you to be very responsive to customers, which is exactly what they're looking for. And we see those transactional data points as one piece of data that we can compare when we do a full relational Net Promoter Score, where we talk to everybody in the network, whether or not they've interacted with you recently. And cross-referencing those two data points together can be very interesting. We often have customers that their scores are higher for customers that have had a trouble ticket recently, because their service and support experience is so exceptional. So that's going to be really interesting, Shane. When we drill into your next data, I'd love to be able to look at who's interacted recently, who's interacted through the GOCare platform, how did they interact, and how does that impact the scores that they give?
That sounds great. And it's a great problem to have, to struggle to raise your score. Good luck to Shane and his crew as they go forward, and congratulations on some great outcomes. So we've got a handful of questions, and if you don't mind, if we could just jump to the first one, and I'm gonna really look more to first anyway to Mike. So the question is, what channel is most impactful for digital comms, and how does it differ by use case?
It's an awesome question, actually. So I've talked a couple of times about SMS here. SMS is without a doubt the most impactful across our entire client base. We started out with a two-way SMS channel that had a lot of automations the customer could initiate, like I said, those keywords to get in a self-help environment. But in the GOCare Connect platform that Shane has deployed, we have an SMS chat function, and that's literally mobile to desktop. There's no app or anything. It's native SMS, lands on the agent's desk, and they know who the customer is immediately based on the number that's coming in, and begin the dialogue. We've had clients, in fact, on another ACA webinar, quote, significant reductions in call volumes in the first 30 days But today I can tell you across our client base, routinely 1 out of 5 contacts come in over that SMS chat function. And it's all free form. The agent can, push any information from the knowledge base to their own responses to customers' inquiries, and subscribers absolutely love that channel. There isn't a person in this country that doesn't know how to use SMS. A lot of client advertising is call or text us at, the same number. So there's branding capabilities that go along with it. It's really been well received.
Thank you. This next question is for Chelsi. Can you clarify what you mean by relational versus transactional surveys?
Yes, it's a great question. The very best organizations do both. So there is a place for both in both your operational process and in how you're leveraging your data to make decisions. So transactional voice of the customer would be sending a survey that is triggered by a specific event. It could be triggered when there is an interaction immediately following, and you reach out. And you could ask questions like, how easy was it for you to have your needs met? How satisfied are you with the service you received? I think those questions are very well suited transactionally so that you can react right then. If there's an issue, you can be on top of it. Relational NPS is triggered on a certain time cadence. So it could be an annual event. Some organizations do this based on a subscriber's anniversary date. So you're kind of on a rolling basis collecting scores. I really like to recommend just doing a one time a year check-in with your subscribers, and you offer that for everybody to answer that survey. And that way you're hearing from customers that maybe you haven't interacted with recently. You can really identify those who are suffering in silence. And we often see that. We look at customers who had a negative sentiment comment around internet experience. We cross-reference that with trouble tickets. And usually we see 70% or more don't have any trouble tickets in the last 90 days. So we really do see evidence of that suffering in silence across the industry, and a relational voice of the customer touch-in is a great way to get ahead of that.
Thank
John,
you.
if I can just jump in real
Yes,
quick
sir.
on that. The transactional surveys, I would say most of the industry does some version of that, where they batch up all of the installs for the day or all of the service calls, and then that evening they push out, say, an email survey to customers. In our world, the transactional surveys are triggered by an event. So, a work order gets closed out after the installation, and that can trigger the survey to the customer that says, did Mike arrive on time? Is everything working as expected? That type of thing. But what you end up with is very timely and actionable data. And when you get a negative response, you have the opportunity to respond while the customer is still attentive to that issue. And our response rates in that world are generally north of 20%, which are multiples of what you see in the email world that are somewhat delayed. And so it isn't about collecting data, it's getting at actionable data that can change the way you as an operator go about doing business.
Absolutely. You got to, it doesn't always work when you leave. It should. But you got to get back out there as quickly as possible, or you're never going to keep that customer. We've got the info up on the screen. If you want more information from our friends at GOCare and Calix, and of course a website for LiveOak if you happen to be tuning in today in your service area. But you can learn more about what Shane and his crew are doing. I've had another question come in, Mike. It reads this way: what can you say about opt-out rates, or the potential to annoy customers via outbound SMS?
It's a highly regulated world. We're very sensitive to it. We really discourage in that free-form world, this relentless outbound marketing upgrade, give me 10 more dollars type of thing. What we've found is, especially the larger clients, opt-in rates of 80 to 82%. So you're talking to 4 out of 5 of your customers when you do this. In order to keep them opted in and they do stay in, you need to add value to them. So you're not over communicating with them. It's like I said, your statement's available, your payment was received, you have an appointment, things that are helping the customer. If you're going to do a touch point, Chelsi made the point of engagement cloud. So we won a Calix award last month at the Connections event where with home telecom, we were integrated with engagement cloud. We're able to send out some targeted messages and saw very high response rates. But I know you work from home. I can see that maybe you're butting up against the bandwidth constraints in your price point. Here's an opportunity to upgrade. And so from that perspective, it's a very targeted message. And again, you're adding value to that subscriber's life. But if you look at what the opt-out rates are, I would say once customers are opted in and they're in for a month or more, they almost never opt out. In fact, when they opt out, it's chances are their account has gone inactive. That it's that type of retention if it's done correctly.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it. Hey, we've got a couple minutes left. As we wait for our last question, I was wondering if it would be okay to pitch to Mike. What's 24 is coming to an end. What's going on with GOCare in 2025? Anything you want to share at this point?
So we've been growing very aggressively. A lot of our messaging has resonated with the industry. Folks like Shane, recognize that doing the same old and expecting a different result, probably a challenge as a new entrant. So yeah, we've had 2 years where we've grown north of 50% and we continue to do that. We've supplemented our sales team here recently. We added Kevin Mitchell, formerly of Alianza, into the partner program, and we're going to invest pretty heavily into our partners with Calix and all of the billing vendors that we've integrated with, the network management folks, these engineering groups. So we want to really strengthen those relationships and make sure that our common clients all have the best products possible. And and then there's some new product development. Obviously, we're paying attention to things like RCS and AI and making sure that we're out in front of the changes in the industry.
Congratulations on your growth. Welcome back, Kevin. It's been a while since I've seen him, and it's been great to see him and talk with him again over the past couple of weeks as we plan for this. Chelsi, anything you want to close with on where Calix is going in 2025?
Yeah, absolutely. We talked a lot today about our subscriber loyalty analysis and what we can do in terms of analyzing voice of the customer data. We also have engagements centered around other business domains. We have a service optimization engagement where we're looking into your service and support processes and data. We've got some network health initiatives going on, leveraging Operations Cloud. We've got some churn acquisition-based studies to help understand why customers are coming in and why they're leaving your network. So we're really poised to help our customers with any of their largest business challenges. If the data's out there, that's where we want to take it on. So we're excited to do more next year.
Awesome. Hey, thanks for joining us today. And to the members that have logged in, we appreciate you on the webinar today. We could not do the things we do at ACA Connects without associate member partners like Calix and GOCare. And as we're getting to know Shane and the folks over at LiveOak, they're doing great things in the areas where they're pushing out in these green fields. So to you, Shane, continue good luck. And we appreciate everybody tuning in today. Thank you to Tamika. This webinar is going to be up and running on the ACA Connects website. Should be by the end of the week. and the slides will be there as well. So we appreciate everybody joining us today. Thanks again to Chelsi and Mike and Shane. Everybody have a great afternoon. We'll see you next time.
Thank you all. Thanks, John. Thanks, Tamika. Thanks, Shane.
We'll see you.
See you, Chelsea. Bye.